Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. I'd like to thank my brother-in-law for sharing this story that he heard about. Make sure you guys show him some love by subscribing to his channel, Hmong Scary Translations. He's a way better storyteller than me. I suck at storytelling, so if you'd like stories spoken only in Hmong, his channel will be in the pinned comment as well as in the description below. Also, consider becoming a YouTube member where you'll get early access to videos, extra bonus content, as well as member-only features. Click that join button to become a YouTube member. Without further ado, enjoy the show. This happened more than 30 years ago, but even now, when I think about it, I can still feel the cold air of that forest on my skin. Back then, I was working as a forestry officer, and my job took me into many places that normal people would never go. I had been in deep forests before, I had slept in the jungle, I had followed animal tracks, walked through rain, crossed mud, and seen things that would make most people turn around and go home. But out of all of those things that I experienced during that time, there was one night that I have never been able to forget. It happened near the Thai and Burmese border, in a northern province where illegal logging was a big problem at the time. People were cutting down trees deep in the forest, taking wood out through hidden trails, and selling it before anyone could stop them. Because of that, our office received orders to inspect the area and see what was really going on. There were 7 of us that went on that trip. We had our team leader and 6 other officers, including me. At first, it felt like a normal inspection trip. None of us knew that we were walking into something much worse than illegal logging. We left our office and reached the province at around 2 in the afternoon. From there, we traveled through different villages, asking questions and following the route toward the forest. The deeper we went, the fewer signs of normal life we saw. The road became worse, the houses became more scattered. Eventually, we reached a point where vehicles could not pass anymore. From there, we had to continue on foot. I remember stepping into that forest and immediately feeling the air change. It was a damp rainforest, the kind where everything feels wet even when it's not raining. The ground was muddy and slippery. The trees were tall and thick. Some were small and bent, and some were large and old. Their branches spread over our heads until they blocked out the sunlight. Even though it was still afternoon, the forest already looked dim. By around 6 in the evening, darkness was already covering the trees. Visibility was getting worse, and it was clear that we would not be able to continue safely much longer. Our team leader had been in that forest many times before, so he told us that there was a village not too far away. He knew the village headman there, and he said that we could stay overnight in that village and continue our work the next morning. None of us argued with him. Even experienced forest officers knew that traveling through thick forest at night was not a good idea, especially in that kind of area. There are wild animals, dangerous trails, cliffs, snakes, and other things that you may not even hear until they are right beside you. So, we all agreed to spend one night in the village. Our leader took us through the forest as the last light of day faded. The trees stood high around us, fallen leaves covered the ground. The air became cooler. After walking for a while, we came out into a more open area, and ahead of us, less than 20 meters away, we saw a small village sitting in the middle of the forest. However, when we walked into the village, I noticed right away that something was wrong. The villagers were not relaxed. They were gathered together, speaking quietly and looking scared. Some of them kept looking toward the forest. Others stood near one of the huts with pale faces. It was not the normal look of people welcoming visitors. It was the look of people who had already seen something terrible. Our team leader saw the village headman standing among them, so he walked over and greeted him. I stayed nearby with the others. The leader asked what happened. The headman looked tired and frightened, and it did not take long before we learned the reason. Earlier that day, 2 women from the village had gone into the forest to gather things. I don't remember exactly what they were gathering. It may have been wild vegetables, herbs, or other things in the forest. That was normal for the villagers. They lived close to the forest, so they depended on it. But while those two women were in the forest, a tiger attacked them. One woman managed to survive and run back to the village. The other one did not. After the surviving woman told the villagers what happened, the men went out into the forest and brought the dead woman's body back. I had seen dead bodies before. In our line of work, sometimes you see accidents, animal attacks, and bodies found in places that they should not be. But the condition of that woman's body is something that has never left me. Her hands and arms were stiff and twisted, as if she had trying to protect herself or push something away. Her eyes were rolled upward. Her mouth was open, frozen in a shape that looked like she had screamed until the final second. The rest of her body looked mostly normal from a distance, but when you looked closer, you could see that the entire hip area had been bitten away. It was eaten so deeply that the white bone was showing. The villagers said that tigers like to eat the hip area first. They said that after that, a tiger will often leave the remains and come back later, usually within a week, to eat again. I stood there listening, but in my mind, I was already thinking about the danger. A tiger that attacks people near a village is not something you ignore. Normally, tigers stay deep in the forest. They avoid people when they can. But if one had already come close enough to attack villagers, then sooner or later, it might enter the village itself. Once a tiger learns that people are easy prey, it becomes a serious problem. That was when the headman looked over at our team leader and asked for help. He said that he had heard that I had hunted many tigers before. He asked if I could help them hunt this one before it returned and attacked again. My leader asked the headman how they planned to hunt it. The headman said that they wanted to use the method of sitting over a carcass. Basically, they would take the victim's body back to the place where the tiger attacked her. Then, when the tiger got hungry and returned to eat again, the hunter would be waiting on a platform in a tree. The moment I heard that plan, I objected. I told them that it was probably a plan that would not work. Tigers are intelligent animals. Their sense of smell is very sharp. If you want to sit over a carcass, no one should touch it or move the body at all. The tiger must believe that everything is exactly as it left it. But the villagers had already carried the body back to the village. It had been touched by many people. It had the smell of the village, the smell of hands, smoke, sweat, and fear. On top of that, a tiger usually does not return immediately. It may take 7 or 8 days before it returns to feed on what it left behind. In my mind, I thought the plan was useless. I believed that if we sat there at night, we would just waste time. That was when the old man spoke. He was bent-backed, with messy hair, and he looked much older than everyone else around him. He spoke in a local dialect that I did not fully understand. The headman looked carefully and translated for us. The old man said that the tiger would return in one night for sure. He asked us for only one night. If the tiger did not come, then we could leave, and we would not have to help anymore. Later, I learned that this old man was the village's shaman. I also learned that he was Burmese. At that moment, though, all I knew was that everyone seemed to respect him, and when he spoke, the villagers became quiet. I did not like what he said. I did not like the way he said it either. There was no doubt in his voice. He did not sound like someone making a guess. He sounded like someone who already knew what would happen. Even then, I still did not believe that the tiger would return that fast. But there was pressure from the villagers, and there was pressure from my team leader. The people were scared, and they wanted help. They believed that I could do something. So, in the end, I agreed. Once that was decided, everyone separated and went to rest for the night. They gave us a hut to sleep in. It had a thatched roof, and inside, a weak lantern cast yellow light up onto the ceiling. The others tried to sleep, but I could not. I lay there, looking up at the roof, listening to the sounds outside. I had seen what happens when a tiger gets close enough. If its fangs sink into your neck, that is usually the end. It will tear your body apart before anyone can help you. So even though I had hunted tigers before, I still had nightmares about them sometimes. I respected them, I feared them, and that night, lying under that thatched roof, I sighed many times and tried to comfort myself by thinking the same thing over and over. The tiger will not come. It is too soon. The body has been moved, and there is too much human smell. We will sit there for one night, nothing will happen, and tomorrow we will continue our inspection. That was what I told myself. The next afternoon, I prepared my gun and supplies. Around that time, the village shaman came to see me. He brought several things with him. He handed me a rope, a gun, and bullets. The bullets had symbols carved into their tips. They looked like markings from some ritual or charm. The headman translated what the old man said. The spirit doctor told me I had to use only that gun and those bullets to shoot the tiger. He also told me that the rope was for tying myself to the tree while sitting on the hunting platform. Then he handed me one more thing, a bamboo tube. When I saw it, I understood right away what it was for. Any Thai person who has sat on a hunting platform in the forest knows this rule. Once the sun goes down, you do not climb down from the platform. No matter what happens, you stay where you are. And if you need to relieve yourself, you do not stand up and urinate down from the platform. People consider that deeply disrespectful to the forest. You use a bamboo tube instead. I accepted everything from him, but I will be honest, part of me did not trust the old man's gun. I was used to my own weapon. I knew how it felt. I knew its weight and its trigger and how to handle it in a dangerous moment. The gun he gave me was unfamiliar. I even thought to myself that if this old gun failed when the tiger appeared, I would probably die. At around 2 in the afternoon, I left the village. 3 villagers went with me to guide me to the bait site. One of them was a local hunter who would sit on the platform with me that night. I was thankful for that, even if I did not believe the tiger would come close. I did not want to sit alone across from a dead body in the middle of that forest. We walked through open areas first, then deeper into the thick forest. Strong wind blew through the trees, pushing the leaves against each other. The sound was constant, like the forest was whispering above us. I remember feeling uneasy, even though nothing had happened yet. After walking for some time, we reached the place where the attack had happened. The first thing that I saw was the body. The villagers had already brought it back there earlier that morning and tied it to a tree. The rope was secured under the armpits, so both arms hung down at the sides. The body looked like it was standing and leaning against the tree. Its feet touched the ground. Its head hung slightly forward. I almost turned around and walked back into the village. It was not only because the woman was dead, but it was because of what someone had done to the body. They had drawn eyebrows onto her face. They put lipstick on her lips, and they dressed up her face as if they were trying to make her look alive. But because the body already looked frightening, the makeup made it much worse. Much worse. Her eyes were sunken. The skin around the eye sockets looked dark. Her mouth hung open slightly, and the red lipstick made the shape of her mouth stand out in a way that made my stomach tighten. I turned my face quickly, but the image had already entered my mind. I could still see it, even when I was not looking. And I knew that I would have to sit across from that body in the dark. I stood there for a while, trying to control my thoughts. I had agreed to help, but I could not back out now just because I felt uneasy. So I climbed up onto the hunting platform the villagers had built. The local hunter climbed up after me. The platform was about 12 meters above the ground. It was built in a tree across from the corpse at a slight angle, less than 10 meters away. The corpse was facing toward the tree where we sat. That meant if we looked straight ahead, I could see the body. If I looked away, my eyes still wanted to return to it. One of the villagers shouted up to us before they left. He said that if they heard a gunshot that night, they would come in the morning to pick us up. He reminded us not to climb down from the tree. Then he and the others left immediately, almost like they did not want to stay in that area any longer than necessary. After they left, the forest felt larger. The hunter beside me did not talk much. I did not talk much either. The afternoon light was still there, but it was already weakening. I tried not to look at the corpse, but my eyes kept glancing at it by themselves. Every time I looked, I saw the same thing. The dead woman leaning up against the tree. The red lips, the hanging arms, and the face that looked like it was waiting. Time passed very slowly. At first, the forest sounded normal. Leaves moved, insects called, birds made noises from far away. The wind pushed through the trees, but after a while, I noticed something strange. The leaves had stopped moving. Not one leaf seemed to move, but the sounds of the forest continued just as loudly as before. That was what made it frightening. If the wind had stopped and the forest became quiet, I could understand that. If the insects stopped and the air went still, I could understand that too, but this was different. There was sound everywhere, yet nothing seemed to be moving. It was like the forest was making noises without a source. I looked at my wristwatch. It was a little after 5 in the evening. The air had grown colder. Goosebumps rose on my arms. I looked at the hunter beside me, and I could tell that he sensed something too. He kept looking around the area, moving his eyes from one tree to another. Sweat had appeared on his forehead, even though the air was cold. I lifted my gun and checked it. Then I loaded a bullet into the chamber. I tried to keep myself alert. In a forest like that, fear can make your mind weak, and if your mind becomes weak, you will miss what is right in front of you. Evening came slowly. The light faded behind the trees. The space below us became darker. The corpse became harder to see clearly, but the shape of it was still there, tied to the tree, facing us. Then I heard it. A sound like a large animal stepping on dry leaves. It came from somewhere in the trees. One step, then another. The sound came closer and closer, stopping and starting in a steady rhythm. My body reacted before my mind did. I lowered my head slightly and looked toward the direction of the sound. The hunter beside me also turned that way. Both of us raised our guns and aimed down through the branches. For a moment, the whole forest seemed silent, except for those steps. Then, from behind a tree, the animal appeared. It was a tiger. Even now, I remember its size. Black stripes ran across its large back. Its fur was a yellow-orange, almost blending in with the ground and dead leaves. Its body was long and heavy. Its paws were huge, almost like the paws of a full-grown bear. Its tail moved slowly behind it as it walked. I had seen tigers before, but seeing one come out in that place, at that hour, walking toward a human body tied to a tree, it was different. It felt like the forest itself had sent something out to test us. But the tiger was not the only thing that shocked me. Out of nowhere, the corpse screamed. It was a thin, sharp scream, like a person screaming in terror. The sound cut through the forest and went straight into my chest. Then the scream changed into laughter. Not normal laughter. It sounded like someone who had lost their mind. I froze. My hands stiffened so much that I almost dropped the gun from my shoulder. Fear and confusion rushed through my whole body. I had come there to hunt a tiger, not watch a dead woman laugh in the dark. Then the corpse moved. Still tied to the tree, it lifted one hand and struck the tiger on the head. The tiger stepped back. After that, the corpse clapped its hand and stamped its feet in place. It looked pleased with itself, almost like a person playing with a giant cat. The body was dead. I knew it was dead. I had seen the condition of it. I had seen the stiffness, the eyes, the mouth, and the wound. But there it was, moving its hands, making sounds, and acting like something inside it was still awake. For a moment, I forgot that I was a hunter. I forgot I was an officer. I forgot everything except the fact that I was sitting in a tree in a dark forest, looking at something that should not be possible. Then I forced myself to breathe. I told myself that I had to stay aware. Whatever was happening, the tiger was real, and real tigers kill real people. I could be afraid later, but right now I had to watch. I turned to look at the hunter beside me. He had fainted. His body was slumped on the platform, completely unconscious. That meant that in that moment, I was the only one awake. In the entire forest, on that platform, facing the tiger and that moving corpse, I was alone. I turned back slowly. The corpse, which had been moving its hand, suddenly stopped. Both of its arms dropped back down at its sides. The tiger crouched and stared at the corpse without blinking. Then the corpse slowly raised its head. It looked up at me. I felt the blood leave my face. The dead woman lifted her right hand and pointed toward the platform. The tiger turned its head and looked in the direction she pointed, and looked directly at me. That was when I understood that this was not an ordinary tiger. I don't know how to explain it in a way that makes sense to people who are not there. I had hunted tigers before. I knew their behavior. I knew their instincts, but this one was different. In that moment, I believed that the shaman had performed some kind of ritual to force the dead woman's spirit back into the body so that it could lure the tiger out. Maybe that was why he was so sure that the tiger would return in one night. But I never imagined that the tiger, or whatever was inside the tiger, would be stronger than the shaman's magic. I never imagined that it could force the corpse to reveal where I was hiding. Once the tiger saw me, it lost interest in the corpse. It turned away from the body and stared at me. Then it began walking toward the tree. It did not hurry. It did not show fear. It moved like it already knew the gun in my hands would not save me. I gathered my senses and aimed at the tiger's head. My hands were shaking, but I tried to steady them. I held my breath and pulled the trigger. Nothing happened. The gun did not fire. For 1 second, my mind went blank. Then, the thought I had joked about earlier came back to me. If the gun fails, I will die. I grabbed the other gun, the one that the shaman had given to me with the marked bullets. My hands moved clumsily because I was that used to that weapon. I struggled to load it. My heart was beating so hard that I could hear it in my ears. My throat felt tight, and it was difficult to swallow. Below me, the tiger reached the tree. It sat down beneath the platform and stared up at me. At first, 12 meters seemed high enough. From the ground, the platform looked safe, but with that tiger sitting below me, looking up as if it knew exactly where to jump, 12 meters suddenly felt terribly low. It felt like I was sitting right above its mouth. The tiger lowered its body. It shifted its weight onto its hind legs. It was preparing to leap. When I saw that, my ears started ringing. My vision darkened around the edges. I understood what was about to happen. I could not climb higher, and I could not run. The hunter beside me was unconscious. There was no one coming until morning. All I could do was raise the gun to my shoulder and aim at the tiger's head. The tiger leapt. At that moment, I looked into its eyes, and then I no longer saw a tiger. In the second that it jumped, I saw the body of an old woman wearing black clothes. Her face was wrinkled. Her eyes were completely black with no white in them at all. She was flying toward me with the body of a woman but the force of a tiger. Wind struck my face. My stomach dropped. I felt dizzy, like my spirit was being pulled away from my body. In that split second, images from my life flashed through my mind. I saw memories from years before. I saw places I had walked, people I had known, parts of my life from the past up to that moment. It happened so fast, but somehow it also felt long, like I was being shown everything before I died. I think I would have frozen completely if something had not happened. Suddenly, on my right side, an old man appeared on the platform. He had white hair and a white beard. I do not know where he came from. There had been no one there before. There was no way for someone to climb up without me hearing or feeling it, but he was right there beside me. He slapped me hard on the shoulder. That slap brought me back. At that exact moment, the woman's body, or the tiger, or whatever it truly was less than 2 meters away from me. I do not know how I did it. I only knew that my finger moved. I pulled the trigger. The gunshot exploded through the forest. Then, everything became silent. After that, I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was lying inside a square room with a thatched ceiling. For a moment, I did not know where I was. My head was heavy and my temples hurt badly. Then, the memory returned all at once. I sat up suddenly and shouted, "Tiger! Tiger!" The villagers rushed in. My team leader was there too. They held me and told me to calm down. They said that the tiger was dead. I looked around in shock. My whole body felt weak. My mind was still in the forest. I could still see the corpse tied to the tree. I could still see the tiger looking up at me. I could still see the old woman with black eyes leaping through the air. And most of all, I kept wondering about the old man with white hair and a white beard. Who was he? How did he get onto the platform? Why did he slap my shoulder right before I fired? No one could answer me. The villagers said that after they heard the gunshot, they did not go into the forest until morning, just like they had told us. When they reached the platform, they found the tiger dead. They found me unconscious, and they found the other hunter still passed out as well. They brought us back to the village. I asked about the old man, but no one seemed to know who I was talking about. Some people looked at each other quietly. Others avoided answering. The shaman did not explain much either. Maybe he knew, and maybe he did not, but I never received a clear answer. After that night, I became sick. I had a fever and stayed in the village for 3 days. My body felt weak and my head hurt. I could not go out with my team while they continued their work in the area. They still had their inspection to finish, so while they went out, I stayed behind, lying in the hut, sweating, sleeping, and waking up from strange dreams. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the dead woman's red lips. I saw her hand pointing at me. I saw the tiger crouching beneath the platform. I heard the scream that turned into laughter, and sometimes I woke up thinking that I could hear claws on wood, like something climbing toward me. The villagers came to check up on me. Some brought food or water, the headman told me to rest, and my leader told me to not think too much about it. But how could I not think about it at all? I had spent years believing that I understood the forest. That night taught me that I only understood a small part of it. When I became strong enough, and when my team finished inspecting the land, we prepared to leave the village. I remember looking back before we entered the forest trail again. The village looked small and quiet in the daytime. If someone had passed through at noon, they might never believe what happened there at night. But I knew. The other hunter knew too, even though he fainted before the worst part. The villagers knew more than they said, and the shaman, that old Burmese man with the bent-over back and messy hair, he knew something as well. He had known that the tiger would return in one night. He had given me the rope, the bamboo tube, the strange gun, and the marked bullets. He had known enough to prepare me, but maybe even he did not know how close that tiger would have come to killing me. After we left the village, we traveled safely back out of the forest. We returned to our offices and life went on. Work continued, reports were made, the illegal logging problem was still there, and the forest remained the forest. But I was not the same. Ever since then, when people would ask me about my job and what was the most frightening and scary experience I had, it wasn't about the criminals, the illegal loggers, or snakes and storms. It was about the time when I encountered that demonic tiger. This story was told to me by my brother-in-law on a road trip a long time ago. I think we were driving to Minnesota, probably to go to Hmong village to pick up some random things, probably for my mother-in-law. I think she needed something, and so we all took this road trip together to go up to the Minnesota Hmong village by Maplewood, I believe, by Phelan Lake. And we picked up some random knickknacks that my mother-in-law really needed, some medicine or herbs or stuff like that. And it really stuck out to me, even after all these years. This is by far one of my favorite stories to tell at a campfire. And a lot of people really enjoy it too. It's got a couple of different iterations from what I've heard, but basically the premise remains the same. It's often about a Thai forest officer going into this village, and he has to hunt this tiger that turns out is not an ordinary tiger, and instead it's this demonic, monstrous, supernatural tiger thing, whatever it is. But anyways, remember to go and subscribe to my brother-in-law's channel, Hmong Scary Translations. He tells stories only in Hmong. So if you are a person that likes Hmong stories told in Hmong, not like my channel where I tell them in English, check it out. And also consider becoming a YouTube member where you'll get early access to videos, extra bonus content, as well as member-only features. Click that join button to become a YouTube member. Leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.